Hey everyone, One Big Boss here. As you can tell by the title of the video that you clicked on, it's a new segment for the channel here. New little video series I want to kind of do, see if people really like these things, kind of testing the waters, but it's called Rank 'em. And I know people have done these tier list videos before, and I always wanted to do them. I just never got around the chance to doing it. So here we are now, and I figured what better way to start off this with one of my favorite gaming series of all time, being Resident Evil. And pretty much everybody knows me because of Resident Evil, so I figured might as well start with that, because I feel a fighting game one right now wouldn't do as good. So anyway, how this works is, this is just like my favorite of the games, and it's not exactly like a top 10, which I think is the better of them. It's just kind of like the categories they go in. And obviously with things like these, they change all the time, so this isn't like a definitive list for the future. It's just kind of the definitive edition now for how I feel about these games. So I really do hope that you guys enjoy this, and let me know your games as well, where they rank in this, in the comments below. This is really kind of a fun thing to do, and, well, I get to do it live now. Well, not live, but I get to do a video on it, and, well, yeah, that's pretty much it. So, with that being said, let's jump into this and check it out. As you guys can tell, you know, there's S, A, B, C, D. You know, D is, like, obviously, like, the Fs and everything like that. C's are the, kind of the meh games, but you'll still play them once in a while. And then, you know, you've got Bs, which are good, As are really good, and then obviously S pluses are the ones that are the best of the best. The ones that, even if they have flaws, they're just my favorite for various reasons. And I'll talk about those reasons as well when we get to that. But right now, let's just go with what they've got down here. And the first one's Code Veronica X. And we'll just count Code Veronica X, Code Veronica, you know, HD, Code Veronica on the Dreamcast, all in kind of like one package, even though there is differences between, obviously, the PS2 and the Dreamcast versions of this. And I really did love this game when it first came out. I did. I really loved Code Veronica back in the day, as frustrating as it was. But as I got older, I just realized I kind of don't have the patience for the game anymore. So, you know, there are things I like about it. I love Richard Waugh's portrayal of Wesker in it. I think the actor for Chris is really good. Claire, of course, having Alyson Court come back to play her was kind of a big deal, because I think at that point, Alyson Court was the first person to reprise her role as a Resident Evil character. So I think that is how that worked, because obviously Catherine Disher took over as Jill in Resident Evil 3. So yeah, but you know, and I love the save room theme. I think it's one of the best save room themes in all of Resident Evil is to go for Code Veronica and stuff. And I love the graphics to it. I love the setting. I love the idea. And let's face it, the atmosphere I feel here is very strong. I think it actually, out of, like, you look at the original Resident Evil games and such, like 1, 2, 3, and, you know, even Gun Survivor when that came out, I feel that this had the strongest atmosphere a lot of the times, whether it's mood, it's lighting, it's music. And that's not to discredit the other games, because I think the mood and music in those were absolutely perfect. So, yeah, Code Veronica, though, I gotta give it... Ooh, this is tough, because I know a lot of people are gonna hate me for this. I'm gonna put it on a C list right here. And a lot of people are like, why is C? Like, you're praising it. It's like, there's a lot wrong with it, though. And for me now, as like an adult, as I get older, and yeah, I mean, D is the worst. C is bad, but good still. B is like middle of the road, and, you know, A is great, and S plus is, you know, best of the best. So this isn't necessarily like a death sentence for it, really. But it's got to go here. It really has to go here at this point. So let's see here. What else we got? Darkside Chronicles. This one, okay, this might piss people off and everything like that, but I'm actually going to put Darkside Chronicles up here in a B, because I love light gun shooter. I always have in the arcades, playing games like Lethal Enforcers and what was it? I'm trying to think of some of the other ones, like the Terminator ones, and Virtua Cop 2 was like one of the best ones you could ever play. Carne Evil, I would say that, but I actually, Carn Evil or whatever it was, I hated that one. Obviously, the House of the Dead games are great. And as far as a light gun game goes, this was pretty good, except for obviously, like, you know, they had you choose 2 players for a reason, because whatever character you didn't choose to play as is the partner in that. Whether, like, you know, how Leon and Krauser have that part, if you chose Krauser, you're looking from Krauser's point of view of all this stuff. And so when you get knocked down, you're actually like shaking with it, you know? And I think that everybody can agree that that was terrible. Like, that should have been an option that you could toggle off, right? Because Umbrella Chronicles didn't have that. So like, they didn't have the shaky cam BS. So yeah, no, I gotta put this at B though. It's got a great story. A lot of the characters are kind of got like a new lease. Like, I mean, Steve is the best he's ever been in this. This is one of Claire's best looks for her Code Veronica and her RE2 original look. And they introduced Krauser. This is kind of Krauser's story in many ways too. They give back to Veronica, where what Leon and Krauser are going through in the main story. It's about the Veronica virus, and obviously they have to tell a story of Code Veronica. So any reason to go back to Code Veronica, and I think they did it pretty well, honestly. And I like the actors for a lot of the characters they chose, and it was great to see Roger Craig Smith take over the role as Chris for Code Veronica, because still to this day, my personal favorite Chris is Roger Craig Smith. He's absolutely amazing as that character. So yeah, we're gonna go to B for that one. Resident Evil 4. Yeah, like it's gonna be an A. I know a lot of people are like, it's not an S+. What are you, fucking crazy? And it's like, look, I didn't really enjoy this game as much as everybody else did back in the day. Now, I liked it. I did like this game, and I played the holy hell out of it on the GameCube because it was a Resident Evil game. Of course I'm gonna freaking play it, right? That's all I was playing. Well, it wasn't all I was playing, but that was like one of my most played things other than fighting games was Resident Evil. So it gets the A rank, obviously, for various reasons. We all know why. So, you know, it's a good game in a lot of ways. It's got good content, but man, that island part at the end is just, it's really rough. It really is. So for me, that's why I'm giving it the A right there. Mercenaries 3D on the Nintendo 3DS. I'm giving it a C. Again, this is like middle of the, well, not middle of the road, but like bad but good, because the thing was, the game itself is not bad, and the idea of a full-on Mercenaries game is amazing. But because they did a lot of crappy stuff where you couldn't delete the data because they didn't want you trading the game in, and you can't delete the data in any way, or at least any conventional ways, that was kind of bullshit. And they only added one new character, which was Claire, and Leon wasn't in it, Sheva wasn't in it. And it was cool that you could swap out the weapon loadouts for characters. You couldn't do individual ones. You'd actually have to take, like, you know, if Claire wanted to use Jack Krauser's stuff, then obviously she'd be using his loadout and stuff, which I thought was cool and everything. But it was a really hard game to control. But if you had friends to play it with, it's actually a lot of fun. I played with some friends down in Mexico over the years with this, and other friends across the United States. We had a lot of fun with this. Operation Raccoon City. I'm giving this a B. Middle of the road. It's good, but flawed. And this game was a major disappointment for me, but after all these years of actually playing with people online finally, because I only played it like a handful of times with friends. Well, no, actually, no, that's not true. I actually played this with a decent amount of people back in the day when it came out, and there was a lot of fun stuff to be had about it. And what was it? I think last year, yeah, it was like me, the rest of the road team, Susie the Sphere Hunter, and we had other people come on to play this, and JJ got to play the version of, what do you call it there? They got to play the version of the good guys in this game, because he had never played that before. So Susie and I knew what was happening. We knew what was going to happen towards the end and stuff, and JJ was like thrown for a loop when it happened. And I was glad Susie picked up on like what I was saying during the thing to like help convince JJ. Oh yeah, that tyrant. Yeah, you don't gotta worry about that. But if you play this with friends, it's fun, and there's still people playing this online. That's the crazy thing. There's still a player base for this. I know the Steam version doesn't work that well anymore, but if you have an Xbox 360 or an Xbox One, it is backwards compatible, and you can play it on the newer ones. So yeah, I'm putting it up here just because it's a fun game, but it's definitely got a lot of issues, and it could have been a lot better. But I really did have more fun with this than I did these two games, and I know that's probably going to set a lot of people off, but again, this is just my top 10 list. I'm not saying that you guys have to agree with this, because this is just my personal thing. So there's that. Oh, this is going to piss off a lot of people, but you know, I think that's one of the best things about these lists is to see what everybody has for, you know, ones that they like. And I'm putting this down here. look, I know Resident Evil 7 came back and saved the franchise in many ways. It brought horror back, but there were games that were doing that just a little bit before that, and we'll talk about that very soon. I just did not like this game. It was very boring. I know Ethan is supposed to be you, and for me, I'm like, look, I've played this franchise for like 20-something years, and I don't want to be in the game as this character. I want the world of Resident Evil that was being created, not this one-off title, and then obviously it spins off into something different. Other than the Bakers, I didn't really care about anything that was happening in this game. This just was a game that, for me, I just did not care for. I played through it twice, and I haven't touched it since. Now, I would play it again on the VR headset. I would do that. I don't know if it's backwards compatible with the new PSVR 2, because I do not want to buy a freaking PSVR headset 1 and have to pay more than 150 bucks for that at this point. Which honestly, I probably can get for 100 now that I think about it. But yeah, goes down here. And speaking of bringing horror back to the franchise, this game came out actually during the time of Resident Evil 6 and Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City, if I remember correctly, and that's Revelations. And I'm gonna put Revelations 1 higher up before these ones right here, because we had an interesting story. We got to see kind of what I complained about from Resident Evil 7 is, and we got to see what this game did, right? We got to see all these new characters be brought in. We got to see kind of the rise of the BSAA. It was kind of the FBC, you know, and all the stuff that happened. That city that got completely wiped off the map, like out in the ocean there, Terra Grigia. And you got to play as Jill. I liked Parker. I thought he was a fun character. I thought, like, you know, the two goofball characters that they threw in, a lot of people hated them. And I'm like, dude, these are like, this is like prime cheese Resident Evil characters. They're not even trying to cheese these guys. They're just comic relief, and it works. So I really enjoyed it for that. And I mean, honestly, it's still probably one of the best games on the Nintendo 3DS. If you haven't played the 3DS version, it's actually worth checking out. The Wii U version is pretty good too, because you can use the Wii tablet as the Genesis scanner and everything. But this is what really started bringing horror back, because this game did have a lot of horror elements in terms of, you know, confined spaces. It was all dark. It was spooky. There was a lot of like really creepy moments, and you didn't get as much ammo as you did in Resident Evil 4. So that kind of made the game a little bit better to play, in my personal opinion. Resident Evil 4 Remake. It's good. S+. S+ for me, because this game made me love a game that I didn't really care for back in the day. This game literally made me care about everything that was happening in it. I mean, all the actors involved, and the motion capture, graphics, the story, everything worked. And the Separate Ways DLC with Ada was absolutely phenomenal. So for me personally, yeah, I have to go with this, because it's just an S+. I found no flaws to this game when I played it, really. It's just a lot of fun, and like the little missions that you get from the what's his name, the merchant and everything, that kind of stuff, you get those, like those little side missions to find the chickens or whatever. It was great. It's a great game from start to finish, and I never got bored of it once, like at all. I never got bored with the damn thing, and I was super happy to be able to play this. And my God, it was just such a great ride from start to finish. Resident Evil Survivor. So I'm putting that right here. I still like Code Veronica a little bit more, but overall, this game for many would have been a fail years ago. But over the last like 4 or 5 years, I really began to appreciate what this game did back in the day. This was a game that for a lot of people just dismissed because it was a crappy light gun game. And unfortunately, due to like Columbine back in the day, that's why they took the function out for the US. So it didn't really get the chance it deserved to succeed in the US and everything. But it's got probably one of the most darkest freaking stories in Resident Evil history. The whole Sheena Island incident, what they did to those kids, him going to report, him thinking that he's actually the villain, and they make you think, oh yeah, he's probably the villain, because yeah, it's like, oh, he doesn't remember who he is and stuff, and now he realizes it, and he's probably gonna get his memories back and realize, oh shit, I was a piece of shit, but that's not who I am anymore. And then they throw you for a loop, and it turns out he's sent by Leon. So he's not the villain of the story that he's made out to be by other people. So yeah, again, It's short. The thing is, if it was a long game, I would have probably put it more down the list or into the D territory, but it's a pretty short game with a good story and a few different paths for you to take here and there, but it's something fun to stream and just kill time with. Plus, my buddy Andy over at Biohazard Declassified, he actually got the game working with a Wii Zapper for I think for emulation and stuff like that, so definitely a good way to play that. Resident Evil Village. I'm putting that at least... Okay, I'm putting it here because I loved Village way more than this because Chris Redfield was back in it. They kind of connect to Umbrella a little bit. You find out that Mother Miranda and Spencer were kind of like colleagues and all this stuff, and they had their own ideas for what they wanted to do with the world and like how they saw like immortality, it seemed. And a lot of people really seem to hate that, and I'm like, why? We're connecting stuff. I mean, people are like, well, she was never mentioned before back in Resident Evil 1 or Resident Evil 1 Remake or anything, or 5. And it's like, dude, like, there's a whole world of this stuff happening out here, so it kind of makes sense that it's okay to, like, you know, that this story, they kind of shoehorned in a little bit, because it doesn't directly affect really what happens in this game's story. It's just, you know, Mother Miranda trying to get her kid back, and, you know, the Megamycete, you know, all that stuff, and Ethan being like dad of the fucking year, man. This dude, like, most of the people are like, you know what, I can have another family, but no, this dude literally like lost fingers, lost hands, got his heart ripped out Mortal Kombat style, and he still kept going, and he beat Mother Miranda and all of her children. Like, seriously. I mean, granted, I think he was stupid for not teaming up with Heisenberg when he had the chance. I think that would have been really cool. And then, like, Heisenberg was going to do something stupid to, like, Rose, and that's, like, when, you know, Ethan would step in. But I liked it. I still liked it. You know, it's just, you know, there's some things that are good about it, and some things that are just like, meh, like, you know, like, I see what you're trying to do, but I feel like this is almost like kind of a testing ground for what Resident Evil 4 Remake was going to be in many ways. So, yeah. Okay, so we got to include, okay, Outbreak 1 and File 2, S-tier games. Fucking S-tier games right here. And everybody's like, are you serious? What are you talking about? It's like, okay, look. These would probably be down by a B at this point, but thanks to the fans that have gotten this game up and running, these two games, and you can play with friends across the world as you were meant to before, and you see how far ahead of the curve this game was, how can you not love this game? How can you not love the hours of entertainment you can get with your friends? How can you not love the fact that almost every difficulty that you choose to play on is a different, like, it's the same level, but there's different puzzles to solve. There's harder puzzles to solve. The zombies get harder. You have to really consummate your resources. It is an incredible game from, like, to do that. Now, I don't like a lot of the levels in many of the games. I think some of the levels are a little bit ridiculous and everything, but it's very few. But this game gave us one of the greatest multiplayer games of all time, and Capcom still chooses to ignore all the wanted needs because they see how little these games sold back in the day. So, S+ for me, man. And if anybody wants to argue this or anything, meet me in a Denny's parking lot and we'll fight it out. Gaiden. That's, no, like, I give them credit. I give them credit for trying to do handheld games back then, because you guys know that Resident Evil 1 was supposed to be ported to the original Game Boy, but this game right here came to the Game Boy Color, and it's kind of bad. Like, it's just, I can't really defend this game. It's inventive, and I like the fact that when they try these spin-off ideas, they do things differently, and it gives them a chance to explore and do things differently, and I think that's cool. But overall, just couldn't do it. Just could not do this any more lower. This game's technically a fail. Reverse. Okay. This is almost fail territory for me. Actually, you know what? It's gonna be higher up on the fail territory, because Reverse is not trying to be anything it's not. It knows what it is. The people working on it were the ones who worked on Resistance, and I've talked to the director before. He follows me, and he's a good dude, and I get what they were trying to do with this. And again, this is like a situation of Capcom not giving them enough money to continue this, because I think what kind of made everybody just stop playing this game was the fact that they weren't going to support it. We weren't going to get legacy characters like Wesker or Sheva or Billy in this. And they just gave us all of Chris's Hound Wolf squad, and they all look the same. Running around the map, they pretty much look the same. So, you know, it's bad. It's bad. But if you get your friends to play with you, you can have fun with it, but overall, it's a broken game. Like, it's very broken. Ada is a busted ass character. She hits you like, people got so good with that damn bowgun of hers and those buffs that she gets. You get one shot killed. It was terrible. Okay, so Resident Evil 1, the game that started it all. This is pretty much also going to count for Director's Cut too, and the Sega Saturn version, because there's no Saturn version up here and everything. Because I kind of rank all three the same. And to be honest, yeah, it's an A. See, like Resident Evil 1 and Director's Cut and Saturn version, it began everything. And going back to play it now, I still love it, but I'm giving it an A. You know what? No. I'm putting it before Resident Evil 4. This game stole hours of my life and is absolutely incredible to play. From start to finish, this is a game that I don't get bored with. This is a game that I just truly love. This is like where it began for me, because I played this game at launch. Didn't even know what Resident Evil was. Just walked to the KB Toys and saw the PS1 Resident Evil. And I was like, oh, shoot, what's this about? So, yeah, it's just fantastic. Resident Evil Remake, S tier, and yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna put this above. You know what? I'm putting it above this here, Resident Evil 4 Remake, because this is still the definitive Resident Evil experience, in my opinion. Now, I don't play the remake a lot because I kind of like to keep that magic with it. Oh, like when I go back and play it, and I'm just like, oh man, like I get wowed by seeing this after not seeing it for a while, and you know, for me, I think that's pretty cool, but. I think it's a bit better than RE4 Remake, but they're both just such good games. But this one scared the crap out of me and my buddies. I remember playing this over at my buddy Corey's house on the GameCube, and he had like one of those old school big screen TVs from the 1990s. His mom got it in like 95, 96 and still kept it for years because it just ran really well, you know? And we played the holy living hell out of this game, and it scared us. This game was tough, and I thought, oh, so this game's just, you know, Resident Evil with a fresh coat of paint. No, there's a lot of new shit they threw into it. I thought because of, like, what I was going around at the beginning, I'm like, oh, it seems to be, like, you know, the same. It doesn't seem to be too drastically different, but no, it gets fucking different, and I love it for it. So, yeah, S+. Resident Evil 2. S+. 2 put Resident Evil on the map. If we did not have the success of this game, you know, Kamiya did wonders with this game, and even like him and Shinji Mikami, when they were butting heads with it, that's why Shinji gave it to him, because I feel like Shinji like trusted him and his vision. It's just, you know, what Shinji wanted he couldn't do, and this game literally put the franchise on the map. This made Resident Evil a household name for Capcom. And so many people were playing this back in the day. 1998 was an amazing year for games, and this was one of them, and I'm giving it an S+. It's not even in like one of my top favorite Resident Evil. I mean, I think it would be in my top 10 if I did a top 10 list and everything. But, you know, this game, it's good, and I can't give it any lower. Oh, God, Resident Evil 6. Oh, God. I don't know about this. I think right here is a good fit. Like, this game is heavily flawed. It's got way too much going on, too many hands in the kitchen. But voice acting wise and cinematic wise, it's pretty damn amazing. Doesn't touch what Resident Evil 5 did, in my personal opinion, but I feel that this game it's got decent co-op, and the Mercenaries mode in it is fun. All the other game modes that came with it, I never really played them and stuff because they just seemed like meh. But yeah, it's got its issues, man. And I don't go back and play this game a lot because I remember when Andy and I from Biohazard Classified, when we started up the Road Twitch again, we tried playing this game and we were falling asleep playing it. That's how bad it was. So yeah, it's rough. Resident Evil Deadly Silence. This is... I'm putting this before Resident Evil 4. Again, this is probably going to piss a lot of people off, but Deadly Silence is one of the greatest ways, if not the best way, to play a Resident Evil game that's not like a HD mod or anything like that. This game is awesome. And you know what? No, screw it. I'm putting it ahead. I'm putting it over here above the original because it's still the same game. It's just, it's portable now. And you could play with your friends. There's a versus mode, and in some ways, there's a versus mode, but which I've actually never have gotten to play with anybody. I have still to this day because it, you know, the DS. I think the DS could go online back in the day, and no one, and it just didn't happen. It just didn't have that function. But you know, from the touchscreen stuff, the Master of Knifing, you know, the zombie mode, and all that stuff, and the touchscreen options, the new puzzles that they added to the game. The game is just better played on the DS at times like this, but obviously for streaming purposes, you know, you got this one right here. But yeah, Deadly Silence goes up here above these two. Again, I know this is going to tick off a lot of people here, but I don't care. This is my video. This is what I do. Resident Evil, The Umbrella Chronicles. Pretty much Wesker's whole, like, it's Wesker's story in this. And I'm putting this right here. Because while they did focus on a lot of what Wesker was doing behind the scenes, and like Ada got her behind the scenes stuff after she survived that fall somehow during Resident Evil 2, and she had to get out of the city, and it showed how Rebecca and Richard teamed up, getting from the guardhouse to like where the snake was, and then getting found by Chris and Jill. This was great, but the problem with this game is that it didn't have Barry Burton. Barry was completely absent from this game. Jill and Chris were partners during the mansion incident, and I think Barry was mentioned in the mansion too, or something like that. And he was just never was never there. They didn't put him in. So, yeah, better gameplay in terms of like the screen not rocking back and forth. So, like, you know, it's obviously better than this, but I think this game just does everything a lot better. So yeah, it's going down here. It's got its problems, but I still go back and play it from time to time, and it's a fun go through. I think they actually kind of handled RE0 in this better than the actual Resident Evil 0. Yes. Yeah, here. This should be no surprise who's to anyone who has followed me on the road for years or my own personal Twitch and Twitter. Resident Evil 3, the OG RE3, gets first place because I love this game so damn much. This, to me, was my favorite of the original trilogy because it took everything from those games and either continued it or added some more stuff to it. I don't say it perfected it, but I think it did pretty good at the horror element because the horror part of it was really good. Like, it was really good here for this game because of the Nemesis and a lot of the creatures you came across and exploring. You finally got to explore Raccoon City instead of just being on the streets for a few minutes as Leon and Claire in Resident Evil 2. So I give them props. Like the areas they chose, like the hospital and the Raccoon City Park, which never gets talked about by anybody, my favorite area of the game. Yeah, 3 just did so much for me back in the day and still does to this day, and I absolutely love this game with a passion. So yeah, this is literally, it takes the #1 spot. It's the champ. It's the GOAT of Resident Evil for me. Resident Evil Dead Aim. I'm putting that down here. Look, Dead Aim has its issues, and I think Survivor, for me personally, is a little bit better because it's a shorter game. But Dead Aim's issues is, you know, it just feels bland in many ways. Although I will admit, this probably has the greatest fucking save theme in all of Resident Evil history. Out of all of Resident Evil history, this is the best theme song, I really feel. But that ship is too confusing to navigate. Everything looks the same in there. And the controls, like, you know, running from, like, you know, over the shoulder, third person to going first person shooter mode, and it's tough. It's just really a rough game. But it's one of those games, you go back and play, and you can have fun with if you play it once in a blue moon type situation. You know, when we play it on the row, people seem to really enjoy it. So yeah, I'm putting it down here in like lower C. Resident Evil 0. Oh fuck, man. I'm putting that right here. Like I said, I think this does the story for Zero better than this game, than the actual game it came from did, but I still find this more fun to play than RE6. And Zero is very inventive, right? Like this is the things people don't talk about. And I know I've talked with Jared from Avalanche Reviews about this too, but by the way, if you're not watching Jared's channel, please go do that. He's remarkable at what he does. But Resident Evil 0 had a atmosphere and a style that was the last to do fixed camera angles, really, for Resident Evil. And it continued the graphical style of what we loved about Resident Evil Remake. But I do understand a lot of people saying that a lot of the areas did feel a little bit bland, like they almost kind of just took them from the remake and just kind of didn't do that much with them. And I get why people say that, because I do agree with that at some point. But graphically still, the game looks great. And the partner zapping system, right? Everybody's like, oh, there's no boxes anymore. I can't play this game. All you got to do, like I've been telling people this for years, all you have to do is leave everything in the main hall. You are going to spend about 80% of the game going back and forth between that area, and that is where you need to go, because almost every point kind of connects to the main hall, so you're never that far away from it. So you can literally dump everything in the main hall. That's all you have to do. And I like that. I like that there was no boxes in it, that they didn't have them in the game and stuff. And, you know, I liked a lot of the things about the game. I liked being able to split up. I liked the fact that they kind of took what was known about Resident Evil games, where the male characters are stronger, but they don't get to carry as much, and the female characters are weaker, but they have lockpicks or access to better weapons at times. And when you really look at what this game does, Rebecca is the weaker character, but she can mix herbs. Billy can't, but he can take one hell of a beating. So that's kind of the neat thing about this game, is that they were experimenting. And I swear to God, with the C-Stick, like, with the C-Stick, you could literally move the other character. And I'm like, this is definitely a game they were trying to test for co-op. They had to have been trying for co-op in this game. They 100% had to. So for me personally, yeah, like, I love Zero in some aspects, but it's going here. It has to go here. I would not feel comfortable putting it any higher than these, honestly. Resident Evil Resistance. RE Resistance, yeah, I'm putting it down here. The idea of what this game was great, and I think a lot of people really did enjoy this at first, and a lot of people really liked the cool characters that you could be and the masterminds and such, but, you know, it just... Again, the team that worked on this, I don't think they got a budget for the game, and Capcom, like, canned it, and people were getting into it. That's the thing. People were getting into Resistance because people kept talking about it and pushing it, and Capcom's just like, yeah, we're kind of done with this. We're not going to spend more time on this, and of course everybody's going to get mad about it, you know? So, yeah, I got to put it down here. So, I got to put it down here. Resident Evil 2 Remake. You know, this might anger a lot of people. This might anger people, but I gotta put it at a B. And you know what? I'm putting it ahead of Darkside Chronicles because I do love Darkside Chronicles a lot, but here's my explanation for RE2 Remake. I'm gonna say this right now. Nick Apostolidis, Jolene Anderson, Stephanie, everybody that was involved in this game, all the actors freaking nailed it. These are the versions of the characters that I think were great. This was the right thing to do, right? I think the actors did amazing. I think the acting on screen with everybody was fantastic. But my issue with the game is that there's not enough of it. All these actors were amazing, and we didn't get that much time with them. Now, I think that's because there was a secondary, obviously, you know, game where, you know, you play as Claire, or if you choose Leon, you know, play as Claire, you choose Leon in the second time. And I think that, you know, I think that kind of hurt the game because I wanted to see these characters together. I know I've talked to Nick about this before, and I talked to Jolene about it too when we had her on the, like one of the row streams and everything like that. And like they all did so good, and I wanted them to, you know, I wanted them to just have more scenes together because they were so good. And the reason why I call this more of a reimagining than a remake, honestly, because I know I called it remake, but it is kind of a reimagining, is the fact that this game does deviate from the original game a lot, but there is still a lot of great things from the original 2 in here, and there's even stuff from Resident Evil 1.5. So you know, salute to you guys for doing that. But I don't think it's a bad thing that they went this far from RE2, the original. But there are things that I wish they kept the same, and I think there was a lot of missed opportunities for things. And again, it's middle of the road for me personally. I got my gripes with it, but it's nowhere near a bad game. It's very enjoyable once you know how to play it. It's a short game. And oh yeah, the fact that Scenario B was not really that different. If you look at Scenario B in the OG RE2 compared to the reimagining of RE2, it's night and day. And for me, that was kind of a bummer. It almost just felt like they just didn't have the time to finish it or didn't want to. I feel that would have been something better for them to do if they really had taken their time to do the last game, like, Scenario B a little bit different. But yeah, it's a B. I know it's going to cause a lot of people to be upset, but yeah, yeah, no, I played this at PAX East, ladies and gentlemen, okay? I played this at PAX East shortly before it came out, and I was talking to the guys at the Capcom booth, and I was like, look, I think this game's pretty fun and everything, but I feel that the hit detection's really off on it. And I feel that, like, with the melee, I feel that everybody's slip-sliding around too fast. I don't think it almost feels like I'm ice skating. And I really hope we see some legacy characters in here at one point, which they did put in. You could buy the heads of the characters and put them on the soldiers, and it was just like, that's not the same. But yeah, no, I can't defend this piece of crap. This thing should never have been. Resident Evil 5. Now, to really upset some people here, I'm putting this in my A category. Yes, I'm putting it before the OG Resident Evils and Resident Evil 4. Now, why am I doing this? Have I lost my damn mind? Yes, because over the years, I have come to love what Resident Evil 5 did bring to the table. Resident Evil 5, upon playing it, was rough because I played it by myself. I didn't play with a friend. I whizzed through the game. I remember I took so much time off of work to just play through the game and have fun with it, and I didn't play with anybody at the time. So it was rough at the beginning, the fact that it's played all throughout the night, the fact that it's not scary anymore. But this still had Chris, Jill, Wesker. There was connections to RE4. There was connections to Spencer. We finally got to see Spencer before he, got chest fucked by Wesker and everything when he, did like the whole like hand through the chest thing. And but he literally pulled like an Android 20 on him or whatever. But yeah, I really like this game because its co-op value is one of the best co-op experiences I have ever had in my life. And I love the story. I love the action of it because Resident Evil 5 doesn't try to be anything of what it is. Like, it knows what it wants to be and it does it. And I can't fault it for that because it does it well. And I think it does a lot for the stories, the characters. The DLC was great. Lost in Nightmares, which is kind of a throwback to puzzle solving of the original Resident Evil games with Chris and Jill. Then Jill gets her own DLC, Desperate Escape, where she teams up with Josh, and they go and fight hordes of enemies. And if you've ever played that on the most extreme friggin' difficulties, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, it is a nightmare, and it's fun as hell, because you just get the barrage of enemies in that mode. So yeah, I'm putting it up here. I'm putting it up here, and I'm putting it ahead of these games right here, because again, these games were the originals, and I can't deny that. They did a lot for the franchise, but what I get from these games, I feel like I got a little bit more from 2 and 3, so that's why I can kind of justify this. Again, I'm not saying that like this is like the definitive and that it won't change years down the road, but this is just how it is for now. Resident Evil 3 Remake. Honestly, B tier. This is like B tier for me, like middle of the road, because this game did what 2 didn't. 3 gave you way more interactions with the characters. I felt that the characters were given more time to explore and be on screen more. They had a lot, their scenes seemed to last a lot longer, and I absolutely love this game. But I will admit it's got problems. It's way too short. Yes, I know the original RE3 was short. Believe me, I beat it enough times in like 2 hours and 10 minutes. I know how short it can be. But I like the areas that you explore. I like the character interactions. I like the combat of it. I like being on the streets. I like fighting the Nemesis when he does appear sometimes, because he's very scripted now. And I know a lot of people out there are like, well, you know, Tony, he was scripted in the old games too. So, yeah, what you're saying now doesn't make any sense. Why is it worse now? It's worse now because there's only one way to go. There's literally only one way to go in Resident Evil 3 Remake. Or Reimagine, if you want to call it that, because I feel it's also a reimagining as well. Because the Nemesis will show up to the same spot every time, but if you played the OG RE3 and you did things differently, you chose different paths, took longer to go this way, or whatever the case is, you got the experience of the Nemesis just showing up randomly. And that's what was great. So, yeah, it gets here. Like I said, the actors did great, the graphics are great, the gameplay can be great at times, but it's still not the RE3 that a lot of us wanted. And finally, here we go. The big decision right here. Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil Revelations 2. Where am I putting this, and how am I going to upset people? And I'm going to tell you guys right now. Right here. It's S tier. Now, why is it S tier? A lot of people are like, "Are you lost your mind? You put it before Resident Evil 4 Remake and even Outbreak? What's wrong with you?" Rev 2 does a lot more than it gets credit for. Now, when this game first came out, I was not one of those people who liked that, you know, episode thing where like I think it was like released like bi-weekly or something like that, or monthly, I think, or maybe it was weekly. But I was just like, no, I want to sit down and I want to play this game all the way through. I don't want this bullshit, right? And like how they get to buy the chapters separately. And to me, that just wasn't cool. But upon playing the game, having Claire come back, even though they kind of butchered her character, the Natalia character, Moira, I know a lot of game places out there crapped on Moira for swearing, but I'm like, she's 19 years old. What 19-year-old isn't going to swear, you know? Like, come on. And I admit the plot was a little weak and everything. It was Alex Wesker trying to like kind of do her own thing, cure herself, and you know, fear and all that kind of stuff. And I like the idea of the bracelets. I like being trapped on that island because there was a lot of horror to it, and it was great in that aspect. And then of course Barry Burton shows up, and he's the best part of the freaking game. Okay, he has dad jokes. He's like dad of the year. He tries to take care of Natalia. There's so many throwbacks and Easter eggs to like Resident Evil 5. I think a little bit of like Resident Evil 4 is thrown in there. Resident Evil Revelations stuff is thrown in there. Neil, who was the boss of Claire in this, you know, he worked with Morgan Lansdale, the villain from the first Resident Evil Revelations. Because, you know, they believed in the FBC, like, and what they stood for. So yeah, like this game has a lot. There's a lot of throwbacks, callbacks, and we cannot also forget the fact that the co-op in this is so different. It never gets, and I hate that people don't talk about the co-op of this game. The co-op isn't like Resident Evil 5 or 6, where both of you just get a gun and go full John Wick on everything, right? You play as a character like Claire, who has the weapons. Moira is the one that has the flashlight to burn and, like, you know, and blind enemies and stuff. And then when Claire follows up with a melee, you know, Moira comes up with her crowbar and friggin', you know, just stabs them, right? Just friggin' stabs them. And it's perfect. It is a perfect way to do a co-op game, in my opinion. You don't have to have someone who can do the same as the other character. You got someone who can do this right here, and it's awesome. And Barry and Natalia's portion, where Barry, you know, he gets his guns, and Natalia can like look for things and search for things, and she can tell you when there's monsters nearby. And if you're playing with a friend, he's like, yeah, dude, like, all right, yeah, sneak around the corner. He's walking that way. Go up, because you know, in this game you have like Solid Snake stealth kills. Like you can come up and like stab them and everything like that. And it just, I have so much fun. Oh, and raid mode. Raid mode is one of the greatest Resident Evil modes that they have ever given us, and there needs to be a full-on raid mode, because this raid mode in this is way better than it was on here for Resident Evil Revelations. Revelations 1 raid mode was a grind and a half to level up. At one point, I stopped playing because I just got so bored. My buddy Joe, he 100%ed it, and I knew a few other people who did too. I was like, how the hell did you do that? You really spent that much time doing it? Like, holy shit. So it's redefined, and it's better here, and it's co-op, and it's absolutely amazing. They give you the things to do, like, oh, don't use any herbs, don't use revival, you know, here's some power-ups for your gun. Your gun can shoot fire bullets now, or your 6-shooter Magnum can now hold like 25 shots, and like the weapons that you unlock and the power-ups for those said weapons, it's absolutely incredible. So for me, yeah, this is my rank 'em right here for all the Resident Evil games. This is where we rank them, and I know this upsets a lot of people probably, but I think one of the things we have to take away about these things is the fact that, don't we want these lists to be different? Don't we want to hear why people like these things and why they like them where they are? Because if we all had the same list, it'd be boring as hell. We would all be bored looking at these videos. So, you know, for the 45 minutes that I did this video, you know, I really hope that you guys enjoyed what you've seen. If you want to see more content like this, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and let me know. And as always, you know, thumbs up and subscribing is free. And in this day and age, free is a damn good thing. As always, everybody, thank you for watching. I'm One Big Boss, and I'll see you all next time. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you could give this video a thumbs up and a share, helps the channel out big time. Give me a follow on Twitter and Discord where I'm most active. Links down below in the description. Also, I stream on Twitch, so if you'd like to see me play a bunch of new to retro games, well, click down below, give it a follow, greatly appreciate it. Till next time, guys, be safe and have a good one.